Welcome to this explainer on the light of learning. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating millennia-spanning journey. We're going to explore how Orthodox Christian education has historically shaped human souls, not just minds. Think of this journey as a sort of sacred torch of divine truth, a torch that's been passed through collapsing empires, freezing monastic scriptoriums, and the very first universities, creating this incredible, living tradition that connects the ancient past directly to your modern classroom today. We are going to trace exactly how the pursuit of knowledge has, historically, always been fundamentally tied to the pursuit of God.
All right, let's dive right in. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, this isn't just some nice, poetic proverb. It is absolutely the anchor of our Orthodox Christian orientation. Before we even look at a historical timeline, we really have to understand that true learning in this tradition, it isn't just about data collection, standardized testing, or prepping for a career. It fundamentally begins with a deep, humble reverence for God as the author of all reality. Honestly, if you miss this starting point, the entire purpose of education kind of just fractures.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be walking through, number 1, the Christian view of history. 2, the jump from monasteries to early universities. 3, the Reformation and global missions. 4, navigating the modern era. And finally, 5, what this sacred calling looks like today.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the Christian view of history.
Now, you might be noticing that modern culture loves to view the history of Western civilization entirely through a secular, critical lens. Seeing the past as either just random chaos, or worse, a grim, endless record of power struggles and oppression. But the Christian providential perspective offers us a completely different framework. It doesn't ignore the darkness, it's actually entirely honest about human brokenness and sin. Yet it affirms that history is definitely not random. It unfolds under God's sovereign direction, and it's marked by grace, preservation, and ultimate purpose. It acknowledges that even when whole civilizations collapse, God is actively working through faithful individuals behind the scenes to preserve truth.
Moving right along to Section 2, monasteries to early universities.
Picture this. It's around 500 AD, the Western Roman Empire has fallen, and Europe plunges into brutal, chaotic instability. But then, an absolutely incredible thing happens. Devoted, monastic communities retreated, but not just to hide away. They retreated to painstakingly copy and preserve scripture and ancient texts entirely by hand. Imagine these monks sitting in freezing scriptoriums, dedicating their entire lives just to keeping the light of learning alive. And it worked. As society finally stabilized around 1000 AD, cathedral schools took all that preserved knowledge and expanded it into the formal liberal arts. Fast forward a century later, and this massive intellectual momentum birthed the very first universities in places like Oxford and Paris. It's just a stunning, unbroken chain of preservation.
So, a big question pops up. How did these early Christians navigate studying pagan or ancient secular texts? Well, they leaned heavily on this profound, incredibly liberating conviction from St. Augustine. He said, "Let every good and true Christian understand that wherever truth may be found, it belongs to his master." This mindset was totally revolutionary. People often called it plundering the Egyptians, meaning Christians didn't have to be terrified of pre-Christian philosophy, math, or science. They could confidently study it, knowing for sure that because God created reality, He is the ultimate author of all truth, no matter who actually discovers it.
And this brave pursuit of truth birthed the era of scholasticism, which is famously defined as faith-seeking understanding. Now, there's a massive lingering misconception out there today that faith and reason are somehow mortal enemies, right? That to be deeply spiritual, you basically have to abandon rigorous logic. Well, scholasticism proves the exact opposite. It was a rigorous method of disciplined reasoning where faith and intellect were deeply interwoven. Exhausting, rigorous intellectual pursuit wasn't seen as a threat to faith. It was literally viewed as the highest expression of loving God with all your mind.
This rich integration is what actually culminated in the invention of the university itself, and it's so vital to remember. The very first universities were explicitly, unapologetically Christian. St. Thomas Aquinas provided the unifying framework for all of this. He said, "All truth is from God, whether discovered by reason or revealed by Scripture." In these early institutions, theology was seen as the queen of the sciences. It provided the foundation that gave ultimate coherence to everything else: philosophy, biology, the arts, the whole shebang. Studying physical creation was considered an actual act of worship, simply because it revealed the mind of the Creator.
All right, let's jump into Section 3, Reformation and Global Missions. The 1500s brought a literal seismic shift to the world. When reformers started translating the Bible into the vernacular, which is just the everyday language of the regular people, it created this brilliant cascade of social change. Because think about it.
To read that brand new Bible, you suddenly needed universal literacy. That sudden explosion in literacy drove the widespread use of catechisms to teach sound doctrine. And where did that doctrine get taught? Right in the home. Translating the text directly empowered families to take absolute responsibility for systematic daily education. It effectively democratized learning overnight, moving it straight out of the exclusive halls of academia and right into the family living room.
By the 19th century, this educational model exploded into a massive global endeavor. Driven by the Great Commission, Christian missionaries didn't just go out and build churches, they built schools all over the world. But they absolutely refused to separate the mind from the soul. These institutions seamlessly combined rigorous academics with deep Christian formation. They relied heavily on local Bible translations to develop indigenous leadership across incredibly diverse cultures. Education wasn't just an add-on, it became an essential, non-negotiable component of global discipleship.
Which brings us to Section 4, Navigating the Modern Era.
Now things get a little tricky as we navigate the modern era. The Enlightenment's heavy push for human autonomy actively tried to sever education from its theological roots. C.S. Lewis offered a deeply chilling warning about this. He said, "Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil." That is an emphatic reminder for us today. Knowledge divorced from divine wisdom and moral truth is actually highly dangerous. Pure reason without God doesn't lead to some modern utopia. It just leads to highly educated, incredibly clever destruction.
So, how in the world do we stand firm in an era of rapid cultural secularization and endless digital distraction? Well, we return to the anchor. There are 4 unchanging pillars of Orthodox Christian education we hold on to: the absolute centrality of Scripture, the guiding authority of the historic Church, the profound integration of faith and reason, and finally, the ultimate goal, the formation of virtue and holiness. These pillars are a bedrock, guys. They are the specific antidote to a chaotic world, and they are just as effective and honestly just as necessary today as they were 1,000 years ago.
And finally, Section 5, a sacred calling today.
Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, why does knowing all this history actually matter for me on a random Tuesday morning? Well, because history provides continuity and humility. It reminds you that you aren't just working out there in isolation. It clarifies that your purpose is vastly larger than just transferring information so someone can pass a standardized test. The past offers us profound wisdom for our present cultural challenges, it guards us against repeating the same old errors, and it inspires us to remain faithful. Modern educators aren't just teachers, you are the active stewards of a long, living, breathing tradition of truth.
And if we forget that rich tradition, the consequences are incredibly stark. Augustine's sharp warning echoes so loudly today. For those who are ignorant of history, remain always children. This really underscores the absolute danger of historical amnesia, because if we don't know our own Orthodox roots, we become incredibly vulnerable to unknowingly adopting secular, non-Christian educational philosophies that are actively warring against our ultimate purpose. We simply must know where we came from to know exactly where we are leading the next generation.
Which brings us to a deeply sobering reality for anyone watching this explainer who leads, parents, or teaches. James chapter 3, verse 1 gives this warning. Not many of you should become teachers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. I mean, wow. This verse completely shatters the modern casual view of teaching. It totally reframes your role. It's not merely a profession or a career path, it's a weighty, sacred ministry that demands truthfulness and profound faithfulness to God's revelation.
So, we're leaving you with one crucial, provocative question to carry with you today. Are you merely transferring information, or are you actively forming souls for Christ? Are you simply clocking into a job to get your students to the next grade level, or are you shaping eternal souls within a massive, living tradition of divine truth? It's a heavy, beautiful calling for sure. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep seeking truth, and we'll see you next time.